So I want to talk about this light skinned, what appears to be mixed race woman on TikTok named Tameka. And she is currently getting dragged up and down the black side of the internet for saying that she gets hated on for being pretty. And by the way, I just dropped a new video for Neptunian members and patrons. So if you're interested, the links to watch are in the description box. Now let's get into what Tameka had to say.
Pretty privilege is real. It is. I said the shit. It's real. So because of the color of my skin, because of the color of my eyes, because of my hair texture, I get hated on. I'm gonna need you people who hate on people who are pretty to at least take into consideration that we getting it out here. Like, we already getting it. We don't need it from you as well. Give us a break. I mean, be mad at moms and dad. Huh? We didn't do it. We didn't ask to be put here to look like this. Okay? Whatever we was mixed up with, it's here, and we didn't have anything to do with it. I was in a public spot a few weeks ago, and there was a gentleman who was talking to me more than he was talking to the other ladies in the room. And ever since then, those ladies have been treating me like shit. And it wasn't my fault. He was just talking to me. I mean, probably because I was confident enough to speak back to him. I don't know. But they was hating. And they've been treating me like shit ever since. So y'all, be kind. Be kind to us pretty girls. We out here struggling. I think we should just call a spade a spade. People are coming for me because they are haters.
So you heard what Tameka had to say, and she is getting dragged all over the internet by black men and black women to the point to where she took all of her videos down. And I think most people are respectfully pointing out the obvious that this woman benefits more from colorism and not necessarily pretty privilege. But I've also seen a lot of people comparing her to E.T. There are people who were bringing up her old pictures when she was young before she lost the weight, and they are roasting her. I mean, it is pretty bad. Y'all know the internet is brutal. And in the age of social media where everybody's flaws are under a microscope and everybody's measuring stick for beauty is young, hot, thin Instagram models, if you aren't exceptionally attractive or at least above average, you are begging to get roasted. And just like I said about that weird black woman troll who went viral for saying Lupita is ugly, I don't understand the women on TikTok who literally walk into getting roasted. Forget walk. They're running and leaping into getting roasted at this point. And this is why I feel the need to keep reiterating, ladies, self-awareness and knowing how your beauty is perceived in the eyes of other people is extremely important as a woman, because then you know how to not embarrass yourself like this online. If this woman truly knew her perceived level of attractiveness, and if she was actually reading the room and understood the current atmosphere online, she wouldn't have done this. And I can't fully blame her because colorism in the black community contributes to this kind of delusion and audacity. And as much as some black people hate to admit it, black men are a huge reason this woman is as delusional as she is. And black women are partially to blame as well, but we're going to get into that in a minute. But I see some of the triggered black women getting upset about people calling this lady ugly. But I remember a while back when a conventionally unattractive dark-skinned woman went viral on TikTok for saying that she didn't get approached by men because of colorism or because she has black features or something like that. And people were in her comments and even here on YouTube dragging her for filth. And they told her colorism and being black isn't the reason men don't find you attractive. It's because you're overweight and it's because you're unattractive. So nobody gets spared on these internet streets. I know a lot of y'all aren't used to mixed race women getting dragged like this, but it's a new day, and there are a lot of black women in particular who are no longer willing to coddle light-skinned women and mixed race women. And this situation is very similar to the dark-skinned women who y'all always say use the colorism card where it doesn't apply. Pretty is not the reason that Tameka is getting hated on. Tameka is likely getting hated on because of her personality. And I know she sounds nice, but think about it. If she had the audacity to go on TikTok and say what she said to millions of people on the internet, imagine how she talks in real life. She's probably one of those insufferable light-skinned women who think that anytime somebody doesn't like her, it's because she's light-skinned with light eyes. If you grew up around black people, if you know a lot of black people, we all know that person. Let's just be honest. If somebody don't like her, if somebody don't care for her, it's always because she light-skinned and she pretty. And if Tameka said this online to a bunch of strangers with her name and face out there, she's probably repeating this to someone in real life, to the people that she knows in real life. And what usually happens in the real world when people talk like this, people will just kind of think to themselves, oh, this woman is kind of delusional. And they just kind of distance themselves without saying anything, because most people aren't going to tell her to her face, oh, it's definitely not because you're pretty. That's probably not the reason. And they're not going to say that because it's not socially acceptable to say. But they will say it online, behind a computer screen or a cell phone. And Tameka reminds me so much of a girl I used to be friends with when I was in my 20s. I talked about her on my channel before, but she's light skinned, about the same color as Tameka, long hair, and she would come to work with the top of her butt crack showing all the time. And when she finally got called in the office about it, because our supervisors were two older Black women, she said they was hating on her because she had a nice body and because she was pretty. But it's like, no, it's really because your butt crack is always showing at work. So I know firsthand how these women act in real life, and that's why people don't like them. It's not because they're pretty, but because they have light skin and long hair or a nice body. They think that's the primary or sole reason that people don't like them. It might be a factor in some situations, for sure. I think that most women can relate to being hated on by other women for how we look or the attention that we get from men. And some women definitely get it worse than others if they're really pretty. But that doesn't apply in every situation. And I do feel like the isms and lack of awareness contributes to many light-skinned and mixed-race women not being able to make the distinction. But there are plenty of beautiful women with nice bodies, long hair, very attractive, that get along just fine with other women. If you're always talking about how you have no female friends at all because you're so pretty, and how everybody is always hating on you and other women are so against you, and you just cannot have one single female friend, it might just be your personality that's the problem. But what some of these women do is they use the jealousy card to cover up just being a weird, strange, off-putting person. And see, dark-skinned women can't do that. When fat, conventionally unattractive dark-skinned women use the colorism card where it doesn't apply, they don't get to use jealousy as a shield or to deflect from being conventionally unattractive. They got to just hold that L. That plus size lady who didn't get into Club Mona, she couldn't use the colorism card. The whole internet was like, babe, it's not colorism, it's because you're not cute and you're fat. That's what the whole internet was telling her. And there's no way a dark-skinned woman who looks like Tameka before or after she lost the weight could come online and talk about colorism or pretty privilege without being roasted. Let's be real about that. And I saw people say, oh, well, why y'all bring up her old photos? She lost the weight. That's the old her. Well, I lost weight too, and I kept it off for almost a decade now. Yet my colorist ops, to this day, bring up how I used to be bigger to invalidate my colorism talking points. And mind you, I was never given 350 pounds like Tameka. I started out slim thick, then got fat, and then lost the weight. I never had to lose over 170 pounds. Yet my old weight is constantly being thrown in my face by my stalkers on YouTube who pretend that they know me personally. But with Tameka, her old weight is off limits. No, she don't get a pass for being big just because she light skinned and because she mixed. That's not how this works. If my old weight matters, so does Tameka's. And it's highly unlikely that she was getting hated on by a bunch of Black women at 350 pounds. I highly doubt that that's what was going on. And I see people saying, oh, but dark-skinned women do be hating on light-skinned women with light eyes. Okay, but we're talking about this individual woman. And we don't believe that this individual light-skinned mixed-race woman is being hated on as much as she claims. And we're allowed to think that. Ever since the pretty privilege conversation became popular online, I've heard the women who discuss it invalidate colorism claims for dark-skinned women who they deem to be unattractive. So we don't have to validate jealousy claims for unattractive light-skinned women with bad personalities. You see how that works both ways? The Black community has been invalidating dark-skinned women's colorism claims for decades, including the entire 10 years I've been online. So what made you think that your complaints, light-skinned mixed-race women, wouldn't eventually be dismissed as well? Y'all told dark-skinned women to stop playing victim. You called us colorism crybabies. You told us to stop complaining about colorism. So we are well within our right to tell you now to stop playing victim, stop being a colorist crybaby. We don't owe you the collective empathy that you didn't give us. Now, if we choose to empathize with individual mixed women that we care about and who care about us, that's one thing. But acting like you're entitled to our empathy after gaslighting us for this long is wild. And see, that also goes back to the light-skinned mixed race entitlement that y'all have. That stems from colorism, thinking that you deserve all of this sympathy for your plight when you're not willing to give that in return. And I'm not specifically talking about Tameka when I talk about the entitlement. I didn't watch enough of her content to know if she's entitled or not. But most mixed women online talking about the downsides of being pretty, they want empathy. They want sympathy that they don't give to other women. And over time, that has become more evident. And I believe that's where some of the response to Tameka is coming from. Other than the fact that, of course, she's older and not considered to be attractive or attractive enough to say what she said. Now, I want to circle back around to why this is the collective of Black people's fault, both Black men and Black women, because I haven't really heard the Black people who are responding to Tameka go into detail about this, but most of y'all are a huge reason why many unattractive light-skinned and mixed race women are delusional about how they look. And I find it comical that Black men of all people are roasting this woman when they are the primary reason she thinks she's prettier than she is. Every time a Black man says publicly that they prefer light-skinned women, mixed women with good hair and pretty eyes, they give every single light-skinned woman with those features an ego boost, even if they aren't necessarily attractive. And these women also get an ego boost when Black women live vicariously through them and put them on a pedestal. When y'all mimic your hair to look like mixed race women's hair by gluing down the baby hairs on your forehead, that's giving them an ego boost. And I would bet money that it's Black women who also give Tameka the most compliments on her eyes and her hair texture. Because in a follow-up video, she talked about how she gets compliments on her eyes and her hair texture all the time. I can guarantee you that most of those compliments are coming from unambiguous dark-skinned women, which is ironic because those are the same women that she came online complaining about hating her. So I believe when a dark-skinned woman is actually mean to them, it kind of sticks out a little bit. It stands out because they're used to being worshipped by Black women. They're used to Black women swooning over them and putting them on a pedestal. So when they don't get that, they lose their shit. That's why a lot of them are so mad at my platform, because I put unambiguous dark-skinned women on a pedestal and not them. And look, I think it's perfectly fine to give compliments to other women who don't look like you. I give and get compliments from various women all the time, regardless of race, skin tone, and hair texture. I don't think anything is wrong with giving props where they're due. But one thing I noticed with Black women who live vicariously through mixed race women is they specifically put their features on a pedestal above Black features. And that's the problem. Y'all will brag about wearing Brazilian bundles or Brazilian bust downs, hair that looks nothing like yours. Or you'll say what Flo Milli said in one of her songs about looking Filipina or looking exotic when you have a type 3 textured wig on your head. Another thing y'all do is when you have mixed race friends or mixed race children, you negatively compare their features to Black features. I remember a biracial influencer, I think her name was Brie or something like that, but I remember her going viral for saying something about her hair texture. And she said that her own Black mother would negatively compare her hair to her own, saying that she wished she had her hair texture. So that's the kind of language that contributes to these women thinking that they're more attractive than you. A lot of you are instilling this into your own children, whether they be biracial, whether they be light skinned or whatever. And that is something that you ladies need to be cautious of if you have biracial daughters or plan to have kids with non-Black men, or even if you plan to have children with a light-skinned man or a mixed race man, because you don't need a white man or a non-Black man to have light-skinned children. And there's nothing wrong with uplifting your children and complimenting their features, but negatively comparing them to yours is the problem. And that is what contributes to the superiority complex that many of them have. And it could turn into delusion as they get older. And you also want to be careful not to give your unambiguous dark-skinned daughters an inferiority complex as well by using negative language about their features. Because those are the Black women who live vicariously through ambiguous women and put them on a pedestal and contribute to some of this delusion and beauty blindness. That's where you get the women like the Black women online who are cosplaying as mixed women and bleaching their skin. They didn't grow up with mothers who positively reinforced their beauty or their Black features, so they grew into adult women trying to force features and hair textures on themselves that they don't have. And I don't have kids, but even I had to check a couple of my Black women and mixed women friends and family on using negative language and facial expressions when it came to how they talked about their daughter's features. One of my good friends, she's mixed and has an unambiguous daughter with a colorist Black man, which, by the way, we know it's very common in the Black community for colorist, featurist, and texturist mixed women and Black men to have unambiguous children that happen to have the features that they don't like. And like I said before, it's far more common than Black women who quote unquote have the mixed daughters that they hate. which is a very popular conversation online. But of course, they don't want to talk about all these self-hating Black people having children who they genetically passed on Black features to, but they don't really like those features. And they don't want to talk about how the parents navigate through that. And that happens way more than dark-skinned women having mixed race daughters. But of course, that's not nearly as discussed online. But anyway, my friend called to ask me what hair products to get for her daughter's hair. Because I have long, natural type 4 hair. So I'm always being asked how to grow hair as if it's some big secret when it's actually not hard. Y'all just overly manipulate your hair because you're attempting to make it look like the typical mixed race hair. You're trying to make it do things that it's not supposed to do. So in the process, you damage it and you break it off. It's not that it's not growing, you're breaking it off faster than it's growing. It's very similar to how white women fry their hair off trying to go blonde. You're trying to force your hair to be something that it's not. But anyway, in my friend's case, she didn't know because she doesn't have type 4 hair. So she didn't know how to do her daughter's hair. She didn't know how to take care of it as it started growing. So she called to ask me about products for her daughter's hair. And in the process, she told me that her daughter said that she hated her afro or something like that. And my friend was like, girl, I don't know where she got that from. And I was like, well, it may have come from the kids at school. That could be part of it. But it also could have come from you calling her hair nappy and making ugly faces every time you mention doing her hair. Or every time you combing her hair, you complaining. And you talking about how difficult it is. Children pick up on that kind of stuff. And she was like, oh, well, I never thought about it that way. But it's things like that make unambiguous children, especially little girls, grow into adults that hate their features. This is why they grow up to put mixed race and non-Black features on a pedestal and contribute to mixed women like Tameka thinking they're pretty by default even when they're not. Or, when they're just okay looking. And you also have to factor in what I always say about average and below average people living vicariously through their exceptional and aspirational media promotion and representation that they don't look like. This is why many unattractive mixed and non-Black women think they look better than they do and better than Black women as well, because they're getting validation from their representation in the media, from their exceptional representation in the media. And again, they're also getting it from Black men who negatively compare non-Black women to Black women as well, especially the high-earning Black men, the very visible Black men in the media. So they get an ego boost from that as well, even if they don't necessarily look exactly like the women that those men are choosing. Media promotion and representation plays a huge factor in this. And this is why I keep stressing the importance of positive representation, because it increases the self-esteem. And that's what it's meant to do. Now, unfortunately, it also makes people like Tameka delusional, and it makes them think that they look as good as their exceptional and aspirational promotion when they don't. And nothing is particularly wrong with not living up to your exceptional representation. It just becomes an issue when you think you do, and then you bring that delusion to the internet, and then you low-key try to brag and position yourself over other women who don't have your features. Because that's what she was doing, and she thought that Black women and dark-skinned women and women who don't have her features weren't going to be able to pick up on that. But we're not stupid, ma'am. Like I said, she seems totally unaware of how she comes off to other people. And it's a shame because she could have avoided all of this if she had more self-awareness. So let this be a lesson, ladies. Please do not come online and talk about pretty privilege if you don't have your shit together. I mean, even if you're above average, you're still probably going to get dragged, but it won't be this bad. So just be careful out here in these internet streets. So that's all I want to say about this. Let me know what you think about this topic in the comments. Also be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch up with you in the next video.